Does it feel like every part of your life is divided? Every scenario, every environment, your church, your school, your work, your friends, left, right, conservative, liberal, religious, secular. It seems you always have to take a side. This is a conversation between a progressive Christian and a conservative atheist who happen to be great friends. Welcome to Living on Common Ground.
Do you think if we met today, we would still be friends?
I don't know, but we're friends now.
A mob is no less a mob because they're with you.
Man, so what? We won a few games. And y'all fools think that's something? Man, that ain't nothing, y'all. And you know what else? We ain't nothing either. Yeah, we came together in camp. Cool. But then we're right back here and the world tells us that they don't want us to be together. We fall apart like we ain't a damn bit of nothing, man.
All right. So today's topic is, I just wrote, I hang out with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And the note that I have, this was your topic, by the way.
Was it?
Yeah. It's when you were talking the day that we were kind of brainstorming a few ideas
Yeah.
a while back, and you were talking about Jesus hangs out with tax collectors and other sinners, as well as widows and orphans and the religiously pious.
Right.
And the whole idea is that, and if I remember correctly, one of the things you were attempting to claim was that that's one of the reasons, or the reason, that Jesus ended up being crucified is because he hung out with everybody.
Yeah.
And so when you're willing to hang out with everybody, what really happens is you piss off everybody.
Yep.
So is that the whole episode?
Yep. I think that's pretty much it.
Great. Excellent. We hope you all enjoyed that.
You know, there was something that I thought that I would bring up on the air that you and I talked about off the air, that would be pretty vulnerable for me.
Oh.
That maybe is related. So maybe we'll get to that. But yeah, I think it's what's interesting about that aspect of Jesus's character, or at least the character that we read about, is not just in our particular, your and my particular church here, but in the church that I grew up in also. And I think this is the case in it's a zeitgeist, I think, at least in the Protestant church in general, which is that it's a virtue to be accepting of those that you perceive are on the fringes.
Mm-hmm.
That's the virtue. And certainly I think that it is.
However,
and I think that what can get lost sometimes in that is how easy it is to just reframe the boundaries so that there are new fringes.
mm-hmm.
And feel that you're on the inside of the herd. And so then you're good and you're virtuous.
Mm-hmm.
And I see lots of examples of the historical Jesus going to what we would call the fringes, right? The prostitutes, the beggars, the fishermen, the poor, the fringes.
Mm-hmm.
And then also going to the tax collectors and the religious leaders and the people who were the oppressors, the Romans, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what ends up. My feeling is that's more radical than just picking a new team, and it also is really dangerous, and it's very, very, very difficult I think it's a lifelong, I think probably for myself, it's a lifelong endeavor.
I agree with you. I think that I think that's actually the work that we're trying to do here. When you mentioned the church that we're a part of here, it's definitely the work that I'm trying to be a part of. And Krista and I had a really good conversation on Monday about this, and Jordan and I had a conversation about this morning. We got an email asking us about about our level of activism as a church, and we don't know. It was an unsolicited email that we got, and we're not quite sure what the email was about. But Jordan and I just
like what prompted it or anything.
Well, I have ideas on maybe what prompted it, but it could very well be me speaking at a vigil earlier this week prompted the email. But what we had to try to explain, and what we're trying to explain, is that how do you, as a group that is I just hang with everyone, like you're describing, right? This idea of, Jesus reached out and sat with the outcast, but he also, it's recorded anyway, that there were conversations and time spent with Pharisees and tax collectors, and we think of the tax collectors as sort of being the outside group. Well, they're considered the outside group by a very small social minority in the greater culture, right? So they're actually the powerful.
They were, absolutely. They would be analogous to, think of the most connected business owner that you know in your town.
Yeah.
It's not exactly like that, because there was an element of corruption that built in, and I shouldn't say even corruption, because corruption implies that it's outside of, that you're doing something that is not based on what the system is. But there was an element of oppression. As well. But you could think of them as, they would have been well connected. They would have been part of the establishment.
Yes.
They're not like...
No, like we read the
story. They're not
Zacchaeus,
outcasts.
and we're like, oh, poor little Zacchaeus.
Right.
No. Like even the way he's portrayed in some of the shows recently, like the popular ones that Christian groups.
Oh, sure.
Out.
Yeah.
Like what was the one, The Chosen?
Yeah, I haven't watched any of it, but I know what you're talking about,
so
those.
Like in The Chosen, they make him like have to hide, and he's like, oh, so like the tax collector's so afraid. No.
No, these are huge. Okay, so just so anybody who doesn't know, I know we talked about this before, but this is one of my favorite topics of Roman history, because it's one of the things I think that shows how sophisticated that society was, how we would consider it sophisticated, even though it didn't have the technology that we have. Administratively, it would have felt very sophisticated. And that is that their tax system was set up so that a large corporation, think of it as a corporation, it would have been Google or Walmart or whatever, it would make bids to the central government for how much they could collect for the central government for taxes. And then whoever won would pay that immediately. Well, they would pay it in some way directly. They would just pay it to the central government of Rome. And then their job was to go out and make good on that. That's their business. And they would make profit. They made profit by extracting. I'll just say extorting. That's what taxes are. Extorting more than what they had paid, obviously. And how do you do that? You don't go in. This is what you got to remember. You don't go in to a people that are under your control and start by walking into every one of their houses, punching the dad in the face, and clearing out as much silver as you can find, because you get a rebellion if you do that. You want to shear the sheep, don't kill them, right? So the easiest way to do that is when you have your corporation and your administrators and your hierarchy of managers and mid-managers and lower level managers and blah, blah, blah. The easiest way is to have the point of contact with the people be from those people. You go into those communities and you hire a Jewish man named Zacchaeus, and you hire, and it pays very well because you're going to not be liked by people, but it's going to make you wealthy. You do it for a long period of time. You're going to accumulate a lot of influence and a lot of money, and people are going to want to be around you. And it's power.
Yep.
These are the types of people that Jesus was like, and also I'll go eat at your house. That's
yeah,
weird.
And I think that's the hard way, and it seems to be the way that is least chosen. And so how do we create that?
Mm-hmm.
That's been the real struggle question for our leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Is like it's being created almost by just sheer will of this is what we're going to be.
That's how anything is created, because everything rises and falls on leadership.
I know, right? But how? Okay, but what happens if the leader's gone, then it crumbles.
That is a real problem, sure.
And so.
And you want something created that could outlive any one leader.
Yeah, absolutely. And
sure.
And so you look to the model of tribalism, right? Because tribalism outlives its elders. However, traditionally, tribalism is built on identifying who's out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Who's excluded.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're trying to do actually is build a community that's defined on all inclusion, including everyone from the tax collectors and the Pharisees to the widows and the orphans and the criminals, and everybody. And so I don't know. So I wrote like an 11-page, no, I think ended up only being 9 pages about like that.
And you're going to read it in its entirety.
No, but the thing of the matter is, I gave it to Krista to read it.
Oh, yeah.
And she was like, yeah, that's beautiful. But it doesn't actually answer the question.
So which is what? The question of what?
Like,
logistically, how do you do it?
How do we logistically do this?
Yeah.
Like, how do we do this? And because one of the other problems you have is as people start coming into it, because of the way that we have been influenced by our culture, we don't understand any other way than tribalism. It's really counterintuitive. It's countercultural. So even when we start being drawn to that because it seems like a safe place for us, we accidentally can create an unsafe space when we begin to assume that we all believe and agree on all of the same things. I recently wrote that on the whiteboard in one of the Sunday school classes because I wanted to. I was trying to. I'm not able to be in there right now.
Yeah.
Because I'm leading a different study, but to try to remind everyone that the reason you're here is because it's a safe space. You were looking for a safe space. So don't now turn around and turn it into an unsafe space. And the only way to do that is to be aware that not everyone in here believes or thinks or agrees with you on everything.
Yeah.
So,
well, to your point, it strikes me that historically the only times that I have ever read of tribal peoples, tribalism being reduced, extinguished, however you want to put it, is when a greater force, an outside, larger force, imposes itself on both and says, neither one of you are you're no longer either one of those tribes. You're all now this empire. You're this American. You're this whatever, right? Because I think just because we naturally, I'm not even sure that it's cultural. I think that it's it's human nature to default to tribalism.
Yeah, I think tribalism is an evolutionary development.
Yeah.
It's for survival. And right. I mean, if you're going to survive, you have to expand beyond your immediate family and inclusion. And you do.
Well, and you have to know who the outsiders are.
Identify who the shared threats are, who the shared enemies are, and then we'll come together. I mean, okay, so look at the Bible if we want, right? The development of Israel as a nation is the coming together of 12 individual tribes because of perceived exterior threats from Assyrians, Babylonians, Egyptians, Philistines, and so we'll all bond together because they're the enemy. And then I look at like the United States, for example, and I think that the United States is a large example of trying to say what we're trying to do in sort of in a microcosm, right? Like it's this, the concept is that all men are created equal and everyone, right? And you have these rights and these inalienable rights. And so what we're coming together for is the common good of all humankind, right? And so let's just for ease, let's just say that by 1780, you kind of have become this thing, and you're trying to figure out what that looks like. All right, but then already by 1830s, you have splintering divisions beginning to form, and even before that, because you've got the development of republicanism and federalism, and it's, well, okay, if we're going to do this, but we have to do it differently, and it already begins to splinter. And so this is like a huge question. How do you keep it from splintering? Because where I see it happening in a community, a tribe, whatever that we're trying to create here, is that we begin to start thinking like, well, okay, we're together. Now, what are we going to do about this thing?
Yeah.
And then what we want to do is we want to make our entire community about solving this thing. And then the problem becomes, and this is what I've been talking about and writing about and shooting videos about and all kinds of stuff about, is that whenever what happens is we then begin to it's what can start out as trying to solve an issue. We end up though like determining who's the problem, and then they become the enemy instead of keeping our eye on the problem.
Sure.
Right. And so you have to, how do you create space where if there is a group of people within the larger community that feel strongly about X, that they have every right to go and speak and do what they feel they need to do about X without demanding that everyone in the community go do X. Or maybe we all are concerned about X, but we have to understand that the way that you're going to go about that may be different. And then so we have to constantly be fighting against purity testing. We have to constantly be fighting against what's the word? I was just thinking about this morning, and it just went right out of my head. Let me see if I can find where I wrote it, because I was writing this morning. Where we have like these performative, like
struggle sessions
and moral performatives, right? Like or like the
virtue signaling.
Virtue signaling. That was the phrase I was trying to think of. Virtue signaling, and we do like this moral outrage, and it's all performative.
Yeah.
We have to get beyond the performative part of looking to try to make a better world. We have to focus on the flourishing part, where anytime I am doing something that blocks flourishing, even if I am attempting to, even if I've identified an area where I feel flourishing has been blocked, right? Let's just say, let me pick something like something that, let's say racism. Okay. Anytime that you treat somebody different, because of their race.
Mm-hmm.
And you begin to put like restrictions on their ability to do things, you're blocking the ability of that entire people group to flourish.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Okay. So we see that and we feel strongly about that. And so we decide we're going to do something about that. Now,
Mm-hmm.
if you turn the racist or the person who is perpetuating the system into the enemy that needs to be destroyed, you have inadvertently participated in blocking the flourishing.
Sure.
Because now you're actively trying to block flourishing of another people group.
Mm-hmm.
And so what is happening needs to stop without destroying the other person.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I'm trying to suggest. And so, I wrote the 9 pages and Krista was like, yeah, I like that. But, however, and so the challenge was like, how do what would be a statement? What would be a thing? And so I wrote this. We believe love calls each person to different expressions of service and advocacy. Members participate in various causes and organizations according to what love requires of them. Some march in pride parades, others volunteer at homeless shelters, others engage in environmental work, still others in dialogue across political divides. We share these opportunities with the community and support each other's calling, but individual involvement represents personal discernment rather than official community commitments.
Mm-hmm.
This diversity isn't a weakness. It's evidence that, and I steal this from Jordan Peterson, the nonetheless faith. Did you watch that lecture?
I'm not sure yet.
Oh, so good.
You like that?
Yeah.
Is that part of the Sermon on the Mount?
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't gotten there then.
Lecture.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been. I'm like mainlining it right now.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And so anyway, he talks about faith is when you come face to face with evidence to the contrary, you say nonetheless.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I sort of switched that around a little bit, and I've coined the phrase nonetheless faith.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's evidence that nonetheless faith produces different fruit in different lives, all working toward human flourishing. To me, I think that's a statement, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure it still accomplishes what we need it to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't get to solve that.
Okay, I'll solve it right now. I think your analogy to the United States is a really interesting one. I would step back to that because, you got 1780, and I really, again, mentioned this last week. We don't really have a country. We have states that are allied together very tightly. And yes, we do have a country. That is true. It's in some sense.
Sure. Referencing back to these United States, and then after the Civil War, it's the United States.
Yeah, but a Virginian would see themselves as a Virginian first, well into the early 19th century. I mean, in 1820, a Virginian's going to feel like a Virginian first and probably a citizen of the United States of America second. Same for someone from Massachusetts, or, they're going to see that that's who they are. And so Yuval Harari talked about this in his book *Sapiens*, and I think it's a really good point. Is that one of the aspects of being human is this ability to, well, it's the narrative process that our brains do, but we like have this we can have this image of ourselves and the world that is all wrapped up in symbolism. And we're now in this point of our cultural development, post-Enlightenment, where we feel that we've destroyed all these symbols. And when we say that's just a symbol, we think of it as dismissive, right? What's real is behind it somewhere. The symbol's not real. The symbol, you could just have whatever. But I don't think that's really the case. I think that underneath, symbols are, to our experience, maybe more real than the thing behind it in some ways. And so I think that what happened in the United States was, and there's a lot of things that happened in the United States, but for this particular point, there was this clash of how you saw yourself. Did you see yourself as a Virginian? who happened to live in the United States, or did you see yourself as a citizen of the United States that happened to live in a particular state? And that clash came to a head, and it was settled at the end of it. You are a citizen of the United States that happens to live in a state.
And we still fight. I think we still fight against that.
Oh, of course we do.
Right?
Of course we do.
Okay, so in that understanding, then I think it points to tribalism again.
Yeah.
And how tribalism then.
That's what I mean about a larger overarching. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So it expands.
Now we're in a bigger tribe.
Continues to do it. And I would say that the evolutionary trajectory of tribalism is ever inclusive, is ever grow. Like who's included continues to grow. Right. So starts with family, moves to cousins, right? Moves to other tribes that come together, and oh look, we're all from the same family, really. And now it's that, and then it becomes city states, right? And then it becomes nations. And
I would agree with you for a particular time frame. I'm not sure that that's always the arc, because I think we've been going, you could say, backwards. I don't think it's actually backwards. I just think it's a difference. But I think 1981, that picture of our tribe was larger than it is today.
Yeah, deglobalization.
Because it was the West versus the Soviet Union. And I do think that it's been fracturing more, and we're like, wait a sec.
Right.
We're not European. Why are we,
making my point. Yeah.
Okay.
No, absolutely. And which is why I think that what we're talking about right now is so important. All right. So the trajectory was, and I'll go with 80, whatever. Let's just say.
I was just picking something before the fall of the Berlin Wall.
When did the Berlin Wall come down?
It was 90. Was it?
I was thinking it was like 89.
It might have been 89. It was right at the turn.
I graduated in 89. So for some reason, that's what graduated from high school in 89. So
I'm thinking of the Soviet Union.
Well, this is,
Colosseum, which is December, which is Christmas of, was it 90? So it might have been 89 that the wall came down.
Comes down and everything just speeds up.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So the trajectory was an ever growing understanding of the size of our tribe. Right. So United States, we are these United States. Right. And then what happens is the predominantly slaveholding southern states unite into a tribe within the conglomerate and say, well, actually, and then you other ones are our enemy. And then that war plays out, and then it becomes the United States, right? And we still sort of push against that a little bit because we still identify ourselves. I wrote a whole thing in the book, The Certainty Trap, about the how the West Coast and the East Coast and how, and again, this is generalizations, but how they view the inner part of the state, right? And so
the flyover country,
right? And so we used to have North and South. It's moved to East and West and Middle. Right, and then the heartland, and
urban and rural. There's all these different ways you see yourself.
Do that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, United States then reluctantly enters World War I, and because there's debates about
because of the worst president we ever had, Woodrow Wilson. Please continue.
Okay. Are they part of our tribe? Are they not part of our tribe? Right. And then World War II. Again, we have isolationists, and are we
because of the second worst president we ever had, FDR. Please continue.
You're going to get yourself in trouble with that one. And so I think most people are like, Woodrow Wilson, sure.
FDR, wait a second. He saved our country.
Top 5.
Right.
So anyway, okay.
Talk about a populist who wanted to make himself Caesar.
4 terms?
So,
okay. So then after World War II, at the prompting of the United States, the way I understand it, is you have NATO, you have all of a sudden, and then the United States offers to become the police of the world for, let's just also be honest, for trade and economy.
Sure.
Because it allows us to trade safely
yeah.
with a larger global economy. And so global economy starts. And again, it begins to spread. Now we still have an enemy. It's called communism.
Mm-hmm.
Then we'll go with 89. Berlin Wall comes down.
You were right, by the way.
Was it?
89. Yep.
Awesome.
November 89.
I love being told I was right.
Mhm.
It doesn't happen often. Usually I'm told, don't question me. And so what we begin to see at that point is a crack in globalization and the beginning of deglobalization. Now, as we deglobalize, it seems to me that as you deglobalize, naturally what's going to happen as a result of the tribalism is the number of enemies you have begins to increase.
Yep, absolutely.
Right? I think that will be the ultimate demise of us,
Mhm.
is the reversing the trajectory of who's included, which is why for me, there is no more important message that I can be engaged in than trying to expand our understanding of who is included. And back to your point earlier, if that's what Jesus was trying to do and it got him killed, then those of us who are willing to do this work, we may not get killed. We might. I mean, who knows, right? I doubt someone's going to take a shot at me,
Mhm.
but I know that people will be happy to verbally assault me.
Sure.
And
And socially,
make sense?
you pay a price that you always, right? That's the Peterson thing too. You always pay a price. You don't get to choose to not pay a price. You do get to choose what price to pay, but you don't get to choose to not pay.
Yeah. And at some point you have to stop asking why me, and you have to start asking, well, why not me?
And as soon as you stop asking why me, and you just pick up your burden and pick up the heaviest thing you can and start walking, all of a sudden the world gets brighter. You've got something you're working toward. You have this feeling of, it's not happiness. That's the thing. It's not happiness. It's
Right.
better than happiness. It's there. I don't really know a good word for it, but I've experienced it, and it feels clarifying and invigorating and good and right and honorable. And I can't recommend picking up your heaviest burden that you can willingly pick up and walking with it. I can't recommend that enough.
I will say this too. I know I can't do it alone. Even picking up my burden, right?
Mhm.
I need people who are willing to, even if it's just say, hey, you're doing good work, right? Or just something like that, to continue to challenge me, continue to push me. I will say this. I've already said it. I just think that this work is perhaps the most important work that I can imagine being involved in. And as a 9, of course, it's going to look like peacemaking. And with a 1 wing, I want to change the entire world. So, all right.
No, I think it's very difficult because it requires a continual looking inside. For myself, I'm just talking for myself. Every time I want to lecture someone, I know that I should be lecturing myself. Every time I want to say, you're being hypocritical, I know I should be looking at myself. Right?
Yep.
And so it's difficult, and I have to be honest with myself about ugly things inside, things that I find kind of pathetic about myself, aspects of my character that I find pathetic. And I got, there's no fixing those. There's no growing if I don't look at those honestly.
You sound like a real stoic.
I mean, I obviously like it a lot. I'm not great at it, but
I officially declared myself a Christian Stoic just a couple weeks ago.
I think it's
I don't think that you can
good
be
endeavor
Christian and not be a Stoic.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. I think that Stoicism's embedded in Christianity.
Yeah.
That being said, I also though think about this something else I was writing this morning, and the reason I was writing it was because of what I participated in on Tuesday. And the reason also is because I hand wrote on my notes for my talk on Tuesday this. Basically, I see that what we're talking about is the difference between a protest and a vigil. Protests are about pointing out what's wrong with you.
Mm-hmm.
Vigils are taking time to reflect on what's important to me.
Okay.
And I think that too often our culture is geared towards protest and not enough vigil. And I'm not even saying like religiously, like vigil.
No.
I'm using vigil as a term of, how about, oh man, I was about to do some language things. So I'm going to skip it.
Okay. I think that is an interesting juxtaposition that you put.
I'm working on a script for a video for that, by the way. Shameless plug. It's going to be on my Substack.
Yeah. Which everyone should subscribe to. And pay the extra for the extra content that's going to be coming out. Historically, vigils have mostly been political and pointed. Funerals, historically, there's a reason that you heard during the Afghanistan and Iraq war about this funeral and that funeral getting hit with. Now, part of that is like mistakes made, but part of it is that they turn into the funerals and vigils turn into protests. That's the reason we're gathering. Really, we're not going to say it necessarily initially, but so it's an interesting contrast. Yeah. And of course, it's the most poignant kind of experience. Somebody has died, right? Somebody that you cared about, or somebody that shouldn't have. How you feel that they shouldn't have, or whatever. But it's it's not. I'm not trying to say. Obviously, I'm not trying to say your grandma's funeral is a vigil, but I mean, just look throughout history. It happens all the time. Every place that is kind of mired in conflict, the rulers or the leaders of that area get real nervous when there's funerals because they pop off.
To turn them into protests.
Of course.
Yeah. And I think about I started thinking about this recently.
Yeah.
And it dawned on me, like this thing dawned on me. I've been practicing what I'm talking about. I've been practicing it actually for years, but I've never like formally like put my thoughts together like I've been doing for the last year about this. Well, now for a few years. I mean, we've been on the air for over 2 years now.
Yeah.
But I've never gone to a protest. I've been invited. I've been asked to go, but I've gone to vigils. And my experience with vigils are, I come away transformed, rather than going and screaming that other people need to be transformed.
Sure.
And again, I'm not saying that they all don't have their place. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right. I just I think about the prayer vigil that I went to several years ago when my children were little, and it was for all of the. And again, I think this is correct. Vigils often start like with a political thing, right? Like just think, like the one Tuesday night was a prayer vigil for all of the families and individuals impacted by the escalating violence from ICE agents, right? So how do you do that though in such a way that you make it about your values, your morals, your convictions, not about how bad everyone else is. To me, that's the thing. So like the other one that I'm thinking about is it was everyone that had lost their lives at mass shootings in the United States, like over a period of time. And my kids were little, and it was right across the street from state capitol. Have I told you this story before?
I don't know.
And
I don't think so.
And we went. Denise and I brought Madison and Robbie, and Kay and Larry went with us, and other friends met us there, Corey and Pamela, and anyway, they had these different like places set up, and there was a cardboard sign that was handwritten, and it had the name of the location where the shooting took place, and then there was candles representing each life that was lost in that one shooting, right? And so I noticed that my children had gone and they were kneeling and reading the one for Sandy Hook. And so as we were leaving, Robbie came up and he took my hand and he looked up at me and he said, "Dad, those kids would be in my grade." And I lost it. And at that moment, I wasn't thinking about like policy reform and how bad the NRA, like all these. That's not what I was thinking about. I was thinking about my son and those kids.
Sure.
And how, what can I do so that maybe someone else won't feel the need to pick up a gun and shoot someone? And that's when I started the nonprofit called Wondrous You. And all it was we just tried to create opportunities for students to get together and be seen, heard, and valued. And I think that came out of a moment of reflection. What do I actually stand for? Not what do I stand against? So that's it. Yeah. And so you could say that the reason I feel that way is because of what I see in my scriptures. Or you could just say that maybe that was the impetus. And I just really feel like it's super important.
Yeah. I mean, when Charlie Kirk was assassinated, there were vigils. Many vigils being held all over the United States in remembrance, and and I think that
Renee Good was shot.
Yeah, and I think that the people who go to these, I think, by and large, they feel that they are going to these for the reasons that you're saying. We just want to remember these people.
And what I'm saying is, if you're a progressive and there was a vigil for Charlie Kirk, and your first thought was to protest it, shame on you.
Well,
and vice versa. If there was a vigil for Renee Good and you're a conservative and your first thought was to protest it, shame on you.
Well, and yes, and think about how you view. I think it's in some ways it's good that they happened so quickly. Not the acts, not the acts, the vigils.
Opportunity for a mirror to be put up.
Right. And so what I worded that really badly. I don't mean it was good that either one of them happened, obviously.
Either one of them were shot.
What I'm saying is you can envision, you can think about, just think to yourself, okay, what were the Charlie Kirk vigils about? Just ask that question of yourself. What were the Charlie Kirk vigils about, really? What were the Renee Good vigils about, really?
Yep.
And however you answer that, you can just know that somebody who's on the other side has a mirror image of how you answered that. And so what does that mean? I mean, I think that goes to what I was saying at the very beginning, that like, if I'm going to be very vulnerable when events happen, I notice in myself that depending on whatever, however it's situated, I want one person to be the right person and one person to be the wrong person, based on kind of who do I like more. That is ugly and pathetic, but it's real. That's what happens in me.
I think if anybody says that that doesn't happen in them, even if it's just quickly, that they're probably not as self-aware as they should be.
I think it's a good idea to try to be more self-aware about that. Yeah.
Because I know that there are times when I'll see things on the news, and I think immediately we try to say, well, who was right and who was wrong.
And it's just based on, I think, like, come on, those people, right? And the reason that I know this, and I won't go into all the detail, but I talked to you about it off the mic a couple weeks ago, and that was that I noticed that when somebody I respected and liked started expressing the other opinion than I had, all of a sudden I got some permission to have that opinion. Right?
Yeah.
And I saw it because of the kind of the time frame of it. It was about a week and a half, and then I heard him talking about it, and then I was like, yeah, that's kind of right. And then I like stopped because I was like, holy crap, that's pathetic, Lucas. That's like, that's not, so did you have a principle to begin with? Why did you start in that position if you can be so easily swayed because this person that you like has this other opinion, you know? And I just have to be honest that there's an avatar of a character that I just don't like them. Yeah. They annoy me. And I think if I'm going to be fair to myself, I think to your point, everyone has that.
Yeah.
You know, it's people that remind you of your uncle. It's people that remind you of your dad that you're mad at.
It was mean to you in school.
Right.
Whatever.
It's people that remind you of your addict, whatever family member, whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I would say you're being hard on yourself to say that, you know, how pathetic. I think it's more insightful. Like, I think that's the kind of insight we need if we're going to really begin to try to be able to make change in this world, is that we then like, I have to be the type of person that others would look to as a permission giver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so I think it also then shows the importance of diversity in this movement.
Yeah.
Because I am not going to be the type of person that everyone looks to as someone that they feel like they're just waiting for me to give them the permission.
Yeah.
Right? But you might be.
Mm-hmm.
You might be that person for somebody. And so, or someone else. I don't want to start naming.
Yeah. No, I know.
But it's the important of it is why it is so important for the group that is being formed around what we're for, not what we're against, about creating safe spaces for all people, that it be a diverse group, because someone has to be able to see themselves in you and then feel the permission to change their position.
Yeah.
But if everyone that they feel is them holds the same position, they'll never change.
Then it's obvious who the bad people are. It's obvious who the good people are.
In your gut, you start feeling a gnawing of, we might be wrong. You're not going to get permission for it unless someone else says, you know, we might be wrong.
Right.
And so we have to be the people that are willing to do that.
A public example of this is an example that Daryl Cooper gave on his one of the more recent episodes with Scott Horton on their show. I don't remember if it was Cooper or Horton who was talking about it, but they're talking about in the first lead up to the first Trump administration, during the primaries, and Trump's up there with the other Republicans. And when Trump said, the Iraq war was a mistake. The whole thing, Afghanistan, Iraq, we shouldn't have been doing any of it. It was a mistake. Boondoggle, we lost a bunch of money. We shouldn't have been there in the first place. A lot of the establishment and the definitely the establishment Republicans, but a ton of the media just thought, well, he's done. He's done then. You can't say that to Republicans. You know, we've had 20 years of Republicans knowing that, you know, all the anti-war people are commies and they're, you know, whatever. And
Snowflakes.
They're snowflakes. They're whatever. It's
things I've been called.
Yeah. And what they didn't realize, and this was Cooper's point, is that the base had already gotten to the point, maybe 4 or 5 years prior, where number one, they were starting to be like, man, we are spending a lot of money and there are people continuing to die and I don't know what we're doing. And also, this topic is an albatross around my neck. I hate when it comes up in dinner parties or what. I don't want to talk about it at all because it feels really dumb to try to defend these positions now. But I can't change my mind because what does that mean? I'm going to agree with Nancy Pelosi?
Right.
I'm not going to do that.
Right.
I'm going to agree with Bernie Sanders. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
But
I hate when that happens to me on accident.
But Trump comes out and says this was the whole thing was a boondoggle. All of a sudden, and this is, again, people got to remember, this is early in the Republican primary. All of a sudden, all of those Republicans in the base that have been quiet about it, they all got permission to go, you know what? He's right. I've always thought that, or at least I've thought that for the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. Forget the Bush. I'm definitely not voting for Jeb, you know? Mm-hmm. I mean, it gave them permission is the point.
Yeah.
And I think they were making the point that we've got to give people permission to be able to change their mind without being humiliated.
Yeah.
You know? And so I mean, I like your point that there's going to be different people in the group that are permission givers, where they have their bona fides that, you know, they're progressive enough, let's say.
Yeah.
And then they can say, you know, it's all right to hang out with an evangelical or whatever, right. You know, whatever it is.
Yeah. No, I think so. All right. Common ground.
I mean, I think that you and I have a very, very, very similar vision of what we want the group to be. And that we want it to be a place where everyone is welcome. Mm-hmm. And I also think that the common ground is probably that we got to keep looking into ourselves when we see the metaphorical plank or metaphorical speck in our neighbor's eye.
Right. Yep. Yeah, I agree with that. All right. So real quick, just to wrap up, put it on your calendars on March 27th. It's a Friday night at the doors will open at 5:30. Recording will probably start around 6. We're going to have dinner and don't get excited. It's probably just going to be pizza. But it's going to be a live recording of Living on Common Ground, and people are going to get an opportunity to be given a microphone, and to ask their questions. If you want to give us a heads up before, or just let us know that you're coming, you can email me. It's Jeffrey.Strezoff, STRESZOFF @gmail.com, and we'd love to hear from you. All right, thanks.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to Living on Common Ground. Please follow wherever you listen to your podcasts and share it with your friends. You can also find a link to our social in the description. The more people we have living on common ground, the better the world will be.